What's going on, guys? Phantasm Mask here, and welcome to my first installment of a Resident Evil retrospective series. Why Resident Evil? Why do the series now? I mean, the re-release of the remake, I should say, doesn't come out until early next year. Same with Revelations 2. Why? Well, why in October of 2014? Well, because every single October, I like to break out the PlayStation 1, PS2, and play through the Resident Evil games. It's just an annual thing that I've done for the past few years, something I enjoy doing. And so I thought, why not do a retrospective series on the games while I'm playing them this year? And then that's when all the cash starts flowing in and I become a rich person. But for the purpose of Part 1, we're going to be using the Director's Cut DualShock edition of Resident Evil. So, without further ado, let's jump into the world of survival horror. Resident Evil opens with probably the best, worst backyard horror film set you can possibly think of, complete with fog machines, dogs making stalked dragon sounds, some of the worst reaction shots ever, bad dubbing, and naturally, the awkward cutting in action.
No! Don't go!
Eventually, our German 80-yard protagonists make their way to the mansion in the Arklay Mountains, which is the main stage of the game. And we are introduced to our cast of characters, which include Chris Redfield, who would later go to punch boulders in the franchise, also has a bad haircut. Jill Valentine, who probably after this clip should go back to firearms training. Barry Burton, the only Canadian in the NRA. Rebecca Chambers, the most useless 16-year-old medic you will ever find. And Albert Wesker as Albert Wesker with the sunglasses, and they make up your cast of Resident Evil, who cares? Now immediately, after just watching that, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. There was live action FMV on the disc, and this wasn't even the first Resident Evil game I ever played. The other ones that I had played the other ones on PlayStation before this one, and to have actual actors in a full motion video sequence at the beginning was kind of weird. It's something that I wasn't used to seeing on the PlayStation console. Also, the really bad ADR, the dog making the stock dragon sound effects, the sudden "no, don't go" from Chris Redfield as he looks at the obvious in-game helicopter flying away. I didn't know what I was getting myself into with this game. It's so cheesy, it's so bad, and I don't know if it's on purpose. Even to this day, I don't know if it was made like that to be a serious part of the game, and I hope that it truly is serious. And if you thought the opening sequence's line reading and script was really, really bad, just get a load of this scene from the beginning.
What is this? Wow, what a mansion!
Captain Wesker, where's Chris?
Stop it! Don't open that door!
But Chris is...
What is it?
Maybe it's Chris. Now, Jill, can you go?
I'm going with you. Chris is our old partner, you know.
Okay, let me handle this.
After discovering that Chris is your old partner too, you make your way to the dining room, and in a small room next to it, you discover your first zombie, one of the most iconic images from the game, and I have to say the remake did a lot better. Zombies are the most common enemy that you can find in Resident Evil. I mean, there are other monsters here and there, but when you run into these guys, if you're not careful, they can grab you, and they can dispatch of you rather quickly. However, if you are a more seasoned player to these type of games, you should have no problem dispatching the common zombie. In this case, we just let Barry take care of it. I always love that cutscene. It's so great. What is it?
What is it?
The game also limits how many items you're able to carry at once. For example, Jill can carry 8 items, and also features an examine system which can be used to examine weapons, other objects, to search for clues to escape from the mansion. This game has horrible writing. I'm not going to fault it for that because I still enjoy playing the game overall, but with lines such as Master of Unlocking or well, I'll just show you probably the most famous one from this game.
That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
You're right.
You're right.
A Jill sandwich! Come on, guys. I mean, it's a classic line, but it's not really good. To add further tension to the game, you're using a limited save system via ink ribbons and a typewriter, another piece that you have to conserve in order to survive throughout the game. Another thing I find myself doing in the Resident Evil games is called the dash walk, where you repeatedly tap the dash button in the direction that you wish to go. It looks really weird, and sometimes it can get you to an area faster. One thing I've always noticed about this game being labeled a survival horror title is, yes, ammo can become scarce, and that does add a bit of tension because every bullet has to count in these games, but the mansion is so well lit. It's not taking a page from the atmosphere side of things, and in fact it is the complete opposite of the remake of this game. The remake is so atmospheric, it does lighting so well, and it was on the GameCube of all things. You know, and say what you will about the GameCube, it wasn't exactly the most advanced piece of hardware at the time, but the remake looked damn good, and frankly did what I think this one was trying to do. Periodically throughout the mansion, you will encounter large monsters, including Yawn, a giant snake, which resides within the attic, and you have 2 encounters with him over the game. He's probably one of the most tedious bosses in the game, aside from the last one, due to the fact that he can poison you. In the basement of the guardhouse, you can run into Neptune, a giant set of sharks, which don't really pose much of a threat in the original Resident Evil, but in the remake, they are a lot more terrifying, and there's a really, really big one that can get you. I was actually surprised at how many different enemy types there were in Resident Evil. People told me that it was just a straight-up zombie game, but, and, you know, I can understand having zombie dogs, but with the introduction of boss enemies like Yawn, the giant snake, or Plant 42, or even the final boss, it wasn't something that I expected when I first started playing Resident Evil games. I was always told that, hey, escape the city while there are a bunch of zombies everywhere, and it really changes up things a lot, especially with the fact that hunters are the worst things ever in this game. That's right, hunters. Introduced in this cinematic, these guys are the bane of the existence of tank controls. They're super hard to take down, and they like to jump like you wouldn't believe. And they have really sharp claws, too. Resident Evil, to start the series off, was... I wouldn't say that it was mediocre or, 10 out of 10. I think that this game is probably a solid 7.5. It's a good game. I enjoy playing it a lot. But it's easily overshadowed by its sequels, which we'll get to in videos in the future. If for some reason you feel like that you can't go back to using these tank-like controls, or if you've been too pampered with 60 frames a second and 1080p, then the remake exists. You can pick that up on the GameCube or Wii, and I'll be discussing the remake in a few more videos from now, but the remake it definitely does the first installment justice if you want to skip the original PS1 version. However, I do urge you to start chronologically, go back to 96, and play this game. I would easily put it on my list of top 10 games to play before you die, because it's a good game. It's cheesy as all hell, but I can't quite describe why I keep on coming back to this game. It's just a pleasure to play, and has been the topic of many discussions with my friends over the years. Now, the next game in our series, Resident Evil 2, it's probably going to be a longer video than this, because I have a lot to say about this series sequel. So until then, Phantasm Mask here, and you have just entered the world of survival horror. Hey guys, thanks for watching part 1 of my Resident Evil retrospective. Part 2 is going to be coming soon, but until then, why not pass the time by watching my Let's Play of Resident Evil Director's Cut found there on the right. Or maybe even watch my Destiny review, I'm really proud of that one. That one's on the left. Or if you'd like to become a super fan of the show, then you can become a patron on my Patreon page by clicking the link below. Part 2, as I said, is going to be coming soon, so stay tuned to Phantasm Mask Gaming. Thanks a lot, guys.